and welcome to the PackMTG cast. I'm your host, Mason Grody. We got Brinson Kenton, and we actually have a surprise guest. We have Bradley. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Brad. I am the most recent joiner of the pack. I met these guys about a year ago actually a year and a half ago probably. I ran into Mason at the GP, and then
GP Minneapolis was August 10th.
It was almost a year ago.
Okay, it wasn't even a year ago yet. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Things happened fast after that because then I felt like every event I went to, I was stumbling on one or more of these guys.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm the newest member of the pack and happy to be here.
How long have you been playing Magic for?
Oh, God. Well, so I'm 25 now, and I started playing Magic when I was like 15, and that was Avison Restored. I was a Subway employee, and I got into it from Subway.
Important
Exactly,
information.
exactly. And then I stopped playing for a little while, and then I rejoined around when I was 20, so that would have been 5 years ago. I met a friend of mine reconnected with a friend of mine in high school who was playing Modern, and kind of got me into it. And then I went to school in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and that was kind of where I started to play Standard and things like that. So my official first competitive set that I considered me joining competitive was Battle for Zendikar.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're actually younger than me. I could have swore you're older than me.
I might be one of the youngest people on the pack.
You are. I think the only other person that's younger than you is Jeremy.
Jeremy's younger than
Jeremy's younger than...
No way.
Yeah.
This is so weird.
Jeremy's 25.
I'm about to be 26 in a month. And I thought Jeremy was older.
Same. But when I first met Jeremy, I thought he was older than me.
Yeah,
too.
I'm a youngin'.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, this is bizarre because we have Brad that looks probably the oldest in the room. I would say maybe close to Brinson.
Yeah.
And then me at the very youngest, but I am
The oldest.
Are you the oldest one in the pack?
I just turned 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would not have pegged that at all.
No,
I saw you.
I'm 12. If I shave this off, I'm 4.
I have a baby face too. I saw your like birthday thing and said you're 31, and I thought you were just trolling me.
No, it's insane. Yeah, when I was 18, I looked like I just haven't gone through puberty yet. I was like 10, I think, image-wise. But yeah, I don't know. I think we'll dive into more of who Brad is, how we know him a little bit more. It's going to be the Brad show, I think.
All right.
And then
on the spot.
We'll talk about the recent bannings, what we feel about probably mostly Modern, and Pioneer.
Okay.
Pioneer, dabble, because a lot of people like to complain about Pioneer right now.
Yeah, it's pretty atrocious.
It's fine. They didn't,
You think it's fine because you're the inverted player, but...
yeah.
I'll need to be educated by you guys then. I haven't played Pioneer since that tournament that you and Brian, Brinson and Brian played in. That was in Madison.
It was the first Pioneer event ever.
NRG put it on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was a small group of us. Like I went with some friends, and Brinson and Brian were the only two that I knew of the group that was there. And then you borrowed that deck to Jeff Hoogland, and I remember you telling me about that situation.
Yeah,
but I didn't know anyone else there besides those two guys. I just went because I was in town.
Yeah, I lent Jeff Hoogland blue-green Eldrazi, but then he ended up changing it to blue-red Eldrazi.
Okay.
Which was... But Oko was legal at the time, right? So, that's why you play blue-green, is because you could have a turn 2 Oko into your dumbass Eldrazi, Elder Deep Fiends. But
I'm glad he's in the rearview mirror. Oko, yeah. No.
So what do we want to start on? Do we just want to start talking about Brad?
Yeah. He's the guest. This is going to be the one time that people get to listen to it.
This will be the one time we maybe stop talking about Matt for a second.
Yeah.
Because normally we just gush on Matt.
Yeah.
Does he exist? Does he not? I don't know.
He's an enigma.
Yeah.
I saw him streaming the other day, and I was like, all right, he does exist.
Yeah.
I thought it was some bot that you guys were. No, I'm just kidding. No. Matt sounds like the numbers guy. He sounds like the legend of the crew. So definitely good to have someone good with numbers on the staff. But yeah, ask away. What do you guys want to know?
I don't know. Do we want to start from how we met?
It's a great story. We've relived this story earlier today, actually, but I'll go ahead and try my best at it. So, painting the scene here, it's Hogak Summer, GP Minneapolis 2019. I'm playing Jund Death Shadow, and it's my sort of variant of it with some of my fun others in the deck and things like that. And I go to day 2, and round 1, I get paired against what I later find out is Mason Grody. And he's playing a deck that I should not have known at the time before the event or before the round started, but we're shuffling up and I am on caffeine overload and I'm struggling to like actually shuffle my deck. I don't know if it was nerves or whatever it was, but I'm shuffling it up and I'm shuffling Mason's deck and one of the cards falls and I'm like, oh crap. I look at Mason and like, one of your cards fell, and he's like, oh man, what, did you see it? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. Which one was it?
Saying, I was like, is this how my day 2 is just gonna be? Like, is this
and of course I called the judge on myself, but I happened to see Oblivion Stone, which is there's only one deck in Modern that plays it. Yeah. So I had some advantage, some information in my head, and I'm not going to lie, I told myself that I was going to try my best not to play with that information. Like, if I had a passable hand, I was going to keep it, but I drew my 7, I was like, oh god, this hand beats Tron. Like, I'm going to keep this hand. Like, no removal spells. Normally, I don't keep many hands that at least don't have one interactive spell, but I just had a couple of Thoughtseizes and a fast Death Shadow. I was like, yeah, this game, yeah. We had a close match, though, I think, if I remember correctly. It wasn't, I think we went to 3.
Yeah, I think I do remember. I don't remember much, but I think one game you just like trounced.
Actually, I think that was game 1, but I think game 1 was tricky because I remember getting into a situation where I thought I had covered every possible out, and I was at 2 life, and you were dead on my next turn, and I was like, wait, I'm dead to Walking Ballista. I didn't even think about that. Like, luckily you didn't draw it, obviously, but yeah, that was the only pack member I knew. And then I went to MCQ Madison at Mox Mania, put it on at the Radisson Hotel in Madison, Wisconsin. What was that? That was October, you said?
Yeah.
It was September?
It was late September, early October.
And that was where I met more of the pack, where I met Jeremy outside, and then Brinson came and joined us, and we were having a conversation about what we were playing, just some, smokers having an outside conversation. And then that was when the dots connected for Brinson. He's like, wait a minute, John Shadow, you were at GP Minneapolis. Did you play a guy named Mason in the top end day 2? He was on Tron? I was like, maybe. And then I saw him. I was like, yeah, this is the guy. I saw his Stone. Yeah. And then I tried to go to as many tournaments in that area. My girlfriend lives in Madison, and I'm from Minnesota, so I tried to commute to see her as often as possible. But I tried to play. I played in a lot of tournaments. There was an NRG Pioneer tournament. There was a MCQ Standard that we played in together. I was on Blue Red Flash, and you were on Nate, and Brian went to that tournament.
John
Fire.
I fucking love that thing. It's so cool.
And then I think that might have been all the tournaments I've been to that you guys, because you weren't at that Standard one.
No,
but I think that was the last one I played in with you guys, or with any of you guys. It would have been fall or winter of this past year.
Yeah,
or maybe
it was winter. It was winter this year.
Right. And then I did play in GP Minneapolis, and that was my last official, or not GP Minneapolis, sorry, regionals, SCG Regionals Minneapolis. That was my last tournament, and that was March-ish.
Yeah.
We all missed that, right?
You were talking about going to the one in Chicago, I thought.
I don't think
we did something else.
Because you guys had something else.
We went to the Winnabox at Frost Giant because while we were winning there, he was updating me about how his tournament was going.
That's right.
And you were crushing, right?
Yeah, you were just like.
I did very well. I definitely. I brought Grixis Death Shadow to that deck. That tournament. I tended to play creature combo decks. I've been known to play Affinity for a while. I played some Infect. I got onto Death Shadow back when Gitaxian Probe was legal. It was when I first got into Modern. I tried it out. Deck was fun. Really hard to play. I liked the challenge, but I also liked the juggling of lowering your life total to hurt your opponent kind of thing, and that deck was dumb. That deck was busted. And then I've been kind of experimenting with Death Shadow for quite a while, and Grixis was the version that I took to that event, and I started off hot. I went like 4-0, 8-0 in the first 4 rounds, and then like round 5 went into Underworld Breach, and I won that one in 3, but that was the first loss, and I made top 8 pretty handily, but then fatigue set in, hunger set in, some misplays happened in top 8, and I lost to a friend of mine who was on a Jund variant. So
Shadow is one of those decks, and maybe it's just because I'm a bad Shadow player, but like it's genuinely hard to go 2-0 unless you're getting like insanely good matchups, just because of the nature of the deck. Is like you might get unlucky and like dropping your life total too low, or like your opponent top decks really well, or you don't find a threat. Like, the fact that you 4-0, 8-0'd is absurd. Like, I don't think I went on a tear like that since GP Columbus, where it started out really bad. I think I started 2-2, and I was like, well, this tournament's fucking over for me. And then I went on a streak because I only went against the Urza Oko decks, I 2-0'd every one of the Urza Oko decks, but I think Shadow was super favored against that deck. Like, Shadow generally skews towards 50%. The Urza Oko deck felt like a 70-30 matchup.
They started to adapt some tools. Like, I found myself Aether Spellbomb gave me some headaches.
Yeah,
because your biggest tool against the fair decks that you want to leverage Stubborn Now is Gurmag Angler, and Aether Spellbomb is a proactive answer to that because it just sits there and Emery can bring it back. And so that one, I didn't play much of Grixis Shadow at that point, but yeah, the tournament actually in Minneapolis was relatively fair. My first 4 rounds, I played Jund round 1, Ad Nauseam round 2, which we're favored in.
Yeah.
And then that one actually got a little close. And then round 3 was red-green mid-range, and round 4 was 4-color Shadow. And then round 5 was that Underworld Breach matchup. Round 6 was 4-color Shadow again.
The fact that I always felt like Grixis Death Shadow had a really bad matchup against 4-color Shadow. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but when I played against, those were my 2 losses in day 1 and 2. GP Columbus was the 4-color Shadow deck. Them having access, they had access to Oko at that time,
right?
But it doesn't feel great. They have more threats than you do. They have about the same interaction, and they have Goyf. Goyf is really difficult for the Shadow deck.
Right. Yeah, that's the part. That's the nice part. I've always felt a little bit opposite, actually. 4-color Shadow is probably the better of the 2 green-based Shadow decks against Grixis, but you at your core, you are a Fatal Push Snapcaster Mage deck.
Right.
You have that avenue as well. So they do have more access to their threats with Traverse the Uvenwald, but you do have the longevity of they only have 2 removal spells that can answer Gurmag in the main deck, and that's 2 Dismembers. And you can kind of manage Goyf a little bit if you are conscientious of your delving. However, they play the same card tips you do, so it doesn't always come up. But I did get lucky in certain moments. I drew well. There were some moments that I look back at where I played really well too. But definitely, you can't top 8 a tournament without a loss if you don't run hot. Right. At the core, I was running hot. So
yeah. Also, a little comment on because I'm not a Shadow player.
Yeah.
But it seems like if they resolve an Oko, right, you have to be behind.
Right. So Oko wasn't legal, or Oko wasn't in the 4-color Shadow deck at regionals. I think it had just been banned. Not that long ago. But when I was playing that deck against the Oko Shadow, I think I was actually playing Oko Shadow at that point, but I was on the Lotus Box version that was playing just Sultai and was playing Windcaller Aven from Modern Horizons to cycle and give your Shadow flying for the turn. Did you see that deck?
What is this card?
It's a 6-mana blue card from Modern Horizons called Windcaller Aven, and it's a 4/4 flyer on its own, and then you can cycle it for 1 blue and give a creature you control flying. So it's your
it's your Temur Battle Rage.
Pseudo Battle Rage. Although I prefer to Traverse for a Gore Clan Rampager. Mason might be able to tell you about that. I remember in that same tournament at Minneapolis, I remember you being like, well, you got the Battle Rage? I was like, no, I got something better. Traverse the Uvenwald. You're like, okay, another threat? I'm like, no, I got you. Gore Clan Rampager.
I had a turn.
Yeah, oldie but a goodie for me, in my opinion. It's a cool card. But yeah, anyway, that's my sort of last tournament I played in. Not really sure what the future looks like for that because I do have a regionals or I have an invitational invite, but I don't know what it's going to look like.
Oh,
it's probably going to be online. I would have to imagine.
I don't know. Are they going to just keep postponing it?
I think that'd be for the best. I mean, you lose money having to travel to that, but I think the invitationals in Roanoke, as Mason can attest to, as he's been to invitationals in Roanoke.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, it was fun as hell.
Yeah, exactly. It's the experience.
That was your Jeskai Ascendancy Emery deck, right?
Yes. Yeah. Apparently, he tried to talk me off of it because, I got there with the deck, so I was really high on the deck.
Yeah.
This deck is insanely powerful.
Right.
I was running hot. You pretty much have to, to do really well at the big tournaments. But
I hated both of your deck choices, but one of them was right and the other one was wrong.
One was very right because this was an event where it was half Modern, half Pioneer at the time. And you started off Pioneer. And killing Pioneer.
Yeah.
With vampires.
Okay.
A lot of people just ignore. They're like, this deck is stupid. But it was quite good. And I think it was actually favored against the mono black aggro deck that people were.
Because of all the life gain you had.
So much life gain. Yeah, so much life gain. And anyway, the other choice was just to stick with. Because I spent all that time figuring out what deck to play in Pioneer because it's so brand new.
Right.
That I didn't pay attention to Modern. So I was just like, well, I'll just stick with this deck. This deck's really good.
Well,
I did well with it.
Yeah.
And I got my ass kicked.
I told him multiple times that it was
Yeah.
a bad deck decision. I'm like, it's not good. It's
Modern
not.
was so bad at that time because that was just overrun. That was like
That was the Urza Oko.
that was the birth of the Simic Urza
the
Oka
Lotus
deck.
Box deck. Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. I remember that deck. Yeah, that would. But anyway, yeah, like I don't know. Modern's a weird format because you kind of get rewarded for playing what you know. You know, like Grixis Death Shadow. By no means would I tell you to go pick that up because it's a tier 1 deck. It's just something that I've played for basically the past 2 years.
Oh.
You know,
You just don't tell people to pick that deck up?
I don't.
Because I've told people to just pick that deck up.
It's
Yeah.
definitely like I don't know. People don't. I think if you watch, I do have to say, if you watch a good Grixis Death Shadow player, it's like watching a Legacy Delver deck operate because everything costs 1 mana, everything's cheap. If you know your spots and you pick your lines and you get a little lucky, of course, because Thought Scour is not Brainstorm.
Yeah.
But you know, if you get a little lucky with your Thought Scours and it's a pretty fun deck to watch. Played at a high level. I know at that regionals event, I know my Underworld Breach match drew a lot of eyes because Underworld Breach was new at the time. It was the grinding station Underworld Breach deck, but also because he probably got the most challenging matchup he had all day because Grixis Death Shadow is like the combo killer of the format. So, you know, Thoughtseize and Stubborn Denial are not cards that he really wants to play against. And he's got Teferi, so he's got his own tools for it. We had some dances in games 2 and 3 for sure. And I remember like finishing the game and being like, holy crap, there's a lot of people watching this game right now, you know? Like it's a fun deck to watch, but I would by no means tell you if you're getting into Modern, go play that deck.
So there's a little backup story to this. Just a little thought on the deck since, like I mentioned, I'm not a Shadow player. The way I look at it and like my tiny experience of playing it and watching it play is like you have control over so much compared to other decks, and you don't have much like to lean on. There's not like, once I resolve this, like I can sit back in my chair a little bit.
Right.
Like I got it under control. But yeah, backup story. I never played Modern. I was mostly standard.
Okay.
Just getting into being more competitive. So I was jumping into Modern, and I asked Brinson, like, what's a deck I should pick up? And he's just like, play Shadow. So I played a couple leagues with Shadow, like,
You got crushed.
fuck you, dude. This deck is insanely difficult.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I have a really good friend of mine who lives in the lacrosse area that came up to that regionals tournament, and he was like, I've had a little bit of experience with Grixis Death Shadow. I want your list. I want you, if you got a sideboard guide. I gave him as many tools as I possibly could for like, this is how I sideboard. This is my list. This is why I'm playing the cards. This is what you need to do for these matchups. He still got crushed because you only get so much out of that prep work. You have to play with the lines. You have to know. You have to like get used to situations like how much damage can I take here? When do I need to crack my bobble? When do I need to keep street rates to play them? Like that was the highlight of that tournament. Actually, I should give you guys that story. That was my favorite game of the entire tournament. Round 6 of that regionals. I'm playing against 4-color Shadow. Game 1, I think he won because he got like he drew a fatal push when he needed to and had a couple goifs in play, and I just got ran over. Game 2, I won off of winning a board stall with Brazen Borrower, just coming down, bouncing something, and then coming down as a 3-3 or 3-1 flyer. And then Game 3, we have this really weird sequence of draws where he, in my opinion, in the Death Shadow mirror matches, unless you have a sustainable advantage on the board, you don't want to do yourself too much damage. You want to kind of keep yourself in a spot where you can burst your life total if you need to, but you don't want to be like at 6 without a board. You know?
8 and 9 is the magic number.
Right. Even 10 can be okay in that matchup.
Yeah.
You know, because in my opinion, you board down in Stubborn Denials. That's just something that I do.
Yeah, I usually cut 1 or 2.
Right. And anyway, we're in this state, and I'm holding my cards back. He's playing really aggressively. He's playing creature after creature, not taking apart my hand, not holding a Veil of Summer. I'm answering his threats, but I have a Gurmag, and I'm holding it because when I Inquisitioned him earlier, I saw Dismember, and I wanted to wait till I had a spot where I could.
You kept Inquisition in? You're an animal.
Yeah, I did. Let me think about my board state here. I did. What did I have come in that matchup? I got to think about my sideboard for a second. I had 2 Culligan's Command that tournament, or I had one Culligan's Command. I think I was on 2 Abrade at that tournament still, so I think I only had 1 Culligan's Command. I had 2 Spell Bombs that came in. So I had 2 Spell Bombs, 1 Culligan's Command, and I think I brought in 1 Aether Gust because I liked it online for the Tarmogoyfs, and I took out both Battle Rages.
Both Battle Rages.
And then 2 Stubs.
Okay, yeah. Never mind.
So
That's
Inquisition, yeah, it's not great. It's not a great top deck late game, but it was still fine. Anyway, I don't have Veil of Summer, so I have to find spots where I can pick apart their hand, you know? So anyway, I get to this spot where I play an Inquisition, I take the Dismember out of their hand, and I'm ready to resolve a Gurmag, and so I go for a Thought Scour. I happened to mill over another one of my Gurmags, which I only played 3 that tournament. That was my own tech that I found myself, when you play 4 Gurmag, 1's the best number, 2 is okay. You're usually happy to see second. You don't want to see a third, and you really don't want to see a fourth, right? And I cut to 3 because I kept drawing too many of them. And so I thought Scour, I mill one over, and then I go, okay, sack my fetch land. And he goes, in response, surgical your Gurmag. And he left me in a really bad spot where I had Kolaghan's Command with nothing to bring back from my graveyard, Snapcaster Mage with no fatal pushes left, and a land. And he had 2 cards left in his hand, and I was like, oh god, he could untap here and like double threat and I'm in trouble, or like traverse threat and I'm in trouble. Luckily he didn't have anything, and I won the game with attacking Street Wraiths. He played a Street Wraith when I was at 10 and he was at 6. And I was like, oh, this is bad. Like, I can't kill this thing. And then I untap and draw my own Street Wraith. I'm like, tap out Street Wraith? And he's like, okay, I can't attack now because you're at 10 and I'm at 6. And he goes, pass. And I go untap, draw another Street Wraith. And so, yeah, it was the highlight of the entire tournament.
Swamp Walk is a
thing.
Brinson obsessed with just like, oh man, Street Wraith is so good as a creature.
Yeah, I think people just think like, oh, it's just it's a free cycler. And it's like, it's so much more than that though, because like the amount of people that I've killed by just putting a Street Wraith on the board, I'm like, you can't block this. Right. And like, this thing's going to go the distance.
Well, that's the thing that was tricky about my list too, is I like to play the extra fetch land. A lot of people like to play a second Blood Crypt. I'm a big fan of the 3rd Scalding Tarn.
Yeah, whenever I've looked at your list, I thought that's always been really weird that like almost every list that I see is 2 Blood Crypt, 2 Watery Grave, and you actually cut the Blood Crypt
for another fetch. Yep. And I also play a really red light deck usually. Like I play 2 Battle Rages main, and then sometimes a Scion sneaks into my main deck, but Jace Vryn's Prodigy was very good for me online, so I played 2 copies in that tournament. But then Kolaghan's Command and Abrade are the only 2 red sideboard cards I play, unless, Lavamancer comes back for humans or something. But So I was on 1 Blood Crypt, 1 Steam Vents, 2 Watery Graves, 2 basics. So I could never cast a Gurmag Angler if Rusted Peace was in play. I just couldn't do it. So
damn.
It got like Street Wraith doesn't come down very often in that unless you're getting Path to Exile. And yeah, it was fun. I would not, back to what the original note was though, if you're getting into Modern, don't play that deck. Watch it played, ask some questions, test it out, but don't buy into it and play.
I've always had the mentality of, if you start with the hardest deck, picking up anything else is easy. Because you have to, like, that deck, I've always said that I love Shadow because of, like, the mini games that you have to play, like, both with yourself and with your opponent. But it does give space for, like, you think about the game differently, you approach each matchup very differently than most every other deck. I feel like getting yourself into that mentality to critically think and analyze allows you to like set yourself up for success to play any other deck. Like maybe Shadow isn't for you, and that's fine. Shadow is a really frustrating deck at times. Yeah, but like then you can play any other deck in the format and be able to think at a different level.
I agree and I disagree. I agree with you that it's the hardest deck in the format, and if you learn how to play it well, you open the door for like a lot of more intricate combo decks and a lot of more intricate things because you just think about the game that way. But there's so many lines in Death Shadow that are not applicable in any other deck. Like if you're playing Jund, you don't like just traditional Jund, you're not going to want to go down to 10 or 8, like what other deck plays Baubles and Street Wraiths? Like that just doesn't happen. Yeah. So like you're sequencing
mono blue living in. There you go.
Your sequencing's just so bizarre in that deck. I would not I don't know. It's a fun deck. It rewards tight play. It rewards knowledge of the format and knowledge of the deck. But yeah,
I agree with the idea that you're throwing out there, and it makes sense to an extent. But it feels like Modern, with my experience of like jumping into Modern, it seems like something that you have to look at the landscape before you just like jump in. And that's what it seems like you're doing with, you're just jumping in with Shadow. You're like, all right, I hope you don't die. And you're like, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You need to know what's going on.
I can't tell you how many times I played that deck and then like got some creatures down, got into a good spot, and then looked down and I'm at 3 and I'm like, oh, that lightning bolt kills me. I didn't even realize that, anyway. But talking more about Modern as a whole, I guess, I got a question for you two. What was your first Modern deck? And when did you play it?
Affinity.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know you were an aficionado of the Opal.
I was not. I played that deck first. So I went to Modern while my friends were still playing tabletop. So I would play with them. Okay. So like they're playing like their podunky, like super inefficient deck. And I'm just like, here's my hand on turn 1 and you're dead on turn 2. And everyone's like, this isn't fun. So like I played that for about a month and a half. And then I sold it, and I bought into Amulet Titan when Amulet Titan was started.
So you're recent Modern guy.
2014.
Not that recent then. Amulet Titan was a thing back then?
Yeah, it started popping up in 2000 and like late 2014.
But after Summer Bloom, right?
Before.
Okay, so you played the Summer Bloom.
I played the Summer
Bloom. Okay.
Yeah, because it started to pick up popularity.
Yeah.
I bought the whole deck.
I mean, the Summer Bloom one was busted. For sure.
Yeah, I bought that whole deck for $300 because it had just started picking up popularity.
Okay.
And then I played that at the kitchen table with them. And I'm like, turn 2 Hive Mind, go to my end step, Summoner's Pact, and kill 6 people all at once. They started hating that, but that was the deck that I was like, this format is really fun.
Yeah.
Affinity is the artifact version of GDS where there's a lot of lines and there's a lot of things that you have to think about. And I didn't ever get to a point where I could think about those lines or even give them much thought. So I wish I would have given that deck more time. But yeah, those are the 2 decks I started with.
Next to Dredge, Affinity is probably the hardest deck to sideboard in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's what was your first deck, Mason?
Yeah.
Was it Abzan?
I mean, I don't know.
Reno guy?
I don't know if we're talking about real decks or not. 'Cause I would say my first actual deck that I'm okay, I'm playing this deck is Greentron.
Okay.
But I think the first no. So actually, the first time ever playing Modern was actually, what was this? Would this be a year and a half ago?
2008.
It was September before I started playing. Before you suggested Shadow. And Mardu Pyromancer was really good.
Okay.
And that's a deck I picked up. And
that was after Jerry Thompson's performance at the Pro Tour, right? When he lost to Lantern in the finals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was Murder's breakout. That tournament was Murder's breakout.
Yeah. So I started playing that, and I had some success with it right away. I think I played a couple leagues with it, borrowed the deck just to prepare for this PPTQ at the time when they had those.
Yeah, when they had those.
Yeah. And I top aided with it right away.
Nice.
I loved it. I loved the whole just getting little tokens and just having the prison effect to it, the Ensnaring Bridge, Blood Moon stuff, and then especially in Ensnaring Bridge, we were talking about this yesterday, being able to be Hellbent, and then on your draw step, you can attack with your 1/1 flyers, play your land, and just sit.
That was silly for sure,
and so much removal.
Yeah, definitely.
I really, really like that deck, and as soon as I started playing it more, I started saving up for it.
Mm-hmm. It's an expensive deck.
Yeah.
Or was at the time. I don't think it is anymore.
Well, also,
Black Cliffs
were
50, weren't they?
52, 54.
Yeah. So that was expensive. And then by the time I was about to fire and buy it, it was unplayable. It was not a good deck. So then I just kind of forgot about Modern for a while, picked up Abzan, a really terrible Abzan deck for this PPTQ.
I'm a big fan of Abzan. I was for a long time. It's not good anymore, but I was a big fan of it. Anytime people were like, Black Green's good, I was like, is Abzan good? Because Stony Silence is a card, but now Stony Silence is not a card anymore. So
let me see what you think about this.
Oh God!
I played I think it was three Kayas main board.
Wow. Okay,
and
I like it.
I think I had 4 Field of Ruins in the main board as well.
Of Abzan. Okay.
Yeah. No,
it made the Shadow matchup absolutely miserable. Kaya is so good against Shadow.
But also, Field of Ruin is tricky in a 3-color mana base.
Yeah.
No. I was saying this was awful. Whatever build this was not good. But I was obsessed with Kaya because I played it online. It was good to knock off amulets and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
That negative to hit 1-drops and stuff was sweet. But no, the deck was terrible.
So you're recent to Modern then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
2019.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Well, I have a similar I got into Modern when I went to college in 2013. I bought a less than $100 blue-white control deck. That's when condition was looping Sphinx's Revelation until you scooped. And I played an Elixir of Immortality, and I had a couple Planeswalkers. It was a budget deck. Quicken Supreme Verdict was a pretty cool interaction.
Yeah.
It was cool. Really cheap. Didn't really win with it that often. I played Monday Night Modern at my local shop and stuff like that. But the first competitive Modern deck I bought into was Bring to Light Scapeshift.
Gross.
That was my deck. That was my favorite deck. It was I got into it slowly over time because it was expensive. Misty Rainforest wasn't cheap back then. It still isn't now. But Cryptic Command was also a $30 or $40 card, and Stomping Grounds was 4 of, Steam Vents was 4 of, different things like that. So it also was really challenging to save up for that kind of money or save up for that kind of deck. But I did win a couple tournaments with it, and then found Death Shadow. I played that deck for almost a year and a half, actually, just Scapeshift, just winning events, local events, and then storing up in-store credit, because this lacrosse shop had a great system where it was you could take your packs, or you could get $250 in-store credit per pack and bank it. And so I'd bank it, buy Misty Rainforest, bank it,
That's
and
the
then,
way to go.
Yeah, and then I sold out a commander and got the rest of my fetches and things like that. So after that, though, it was Death Shadow and Affinity and Infect, and I'm more of a proactive player than a reactive guy.
That's Junk Shadow, right? I look at you as the Junk Shadow.
Yeah, Grixis was something that, like, when Grixis is good, I think it's good. But Junk Shadow, I definitely play a lot of, like, weird stuff.
So you really like Grixis Shadow once every 2 years?
Basically.
Yeah, okay. All right.
If it feels right, if the Stubborn Denial, I think it's the best Stubborn Denial deck that Death Shadow versions. I think I don't like the 4-color versions because I think Goyf with Stubborn Denial is really clunky. I think you get a lot out of like almost all of your deck being able to be played for 1 mana. And so like my main deck configurations as Grixis always have a curve of 1 and 2 mana and never any 3-drops. Snapcaster Mage counts as a 3-drop, but in that regionals tournament, I played Snapcaster Mage as an Ambush Viper more than I played it as a bring a spell back kind of card. But yeah, is there anything else you guys want to know about me, or should we talk about Modern now?
I think
we've kind of been talking about Modern already.
I think I have a decent segue.
Okay.
I think some of us have played at least a little bit of Modern recently.
Yeah.
So we talked about what we started with, but now there's been these new bans in these other formats and stuff. And in Modern, it's kind of a big one. So we go around the table. What are we playing? What are we into right now?
All right.
Start with you.
Start with me.
Yeah.
Well, I've got Shadow in my back pocket at all times. I do a fair amount of streaming. I try to stream regularly, so check me out at Brezzy43 if you want to come check it out. BREZZY43.
Nice plug. I love it.
Yeah.
Gotta plug it. The other decks I've been looking at, I think Blue-White Control is very well positioned. I think that's something that
Really?
I've played that before, and it's something that I might segue myself into because Frantic Inventory is a messed up card. Mystic Sanctuary is a messed up card. I've got a list with me today, actually, that I'll be playing against you guys later that I'm excited to mess around with because I think I have to proxy the Frantic Inventories because I haven't bought cards in
I have 4 around here.
Beautiful.
You're good.
I have Astrolabes in there proxy for those right now because that card's banned, so it's fine. But the deck seems like way too good to not mess around. I think it's highly customizable. I think there's a lot of options for you. You can play. Mason and I were talking about this before the podcast. You can play like a more tempo-oriented Stoneforge Mystic, less on the Cryptic Command Mystic Sanctuary lock, and more on the tempo you got with Spell Quellers and Snapcasters and Stoneforges. Or you can go over the top of people and you can play, 3 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 1 Teferi, 4 Mystic Sanctuary, Snapcasters, and...
Where are you on Shark Typhoon?
I think Shark Typhoon is a pretty messed up card as well. I think that Shark Typhoon fits both builds, though.
Yeah.
Shark Typhoon is obviously like, if you're playing just blue-white, which I think you should be doing now, it's kind of your Ice Fang Quaddle in a way, because it's like, it carries a sword pretty well, it hits pretty hard, it draws your card. Or the hard, I don't like it as much in the hard Planeswalker control.
Right.
I'm not going to lie. I think it's better off in like, I know Jerry Thompson posted a blue-black control list, and I think that in a Drago control list, that's exactly the card you want because
without an inverter combo.
Without it. So that must be what you're playing now.
Oh, maybe. I think it's kind of cheating. It's kind of too good of a deck.
Oh, okay.
He's got to challenge himself. Like,
Cryptic Command's not doing it for you. You want to cast 4 mana 6/6.
Oh yeah.
No dig through time, not a problem for me. I got relics.
It's just a cheaper relic or a cheaper dig through time.
yeah.
It's so good.
God.
So looking at the top 7, I get to draw 1, but hey,
Right.
game's over.
I remember, what was it, you or like maybe Brian was discussing like, what do you do? They're asking like, what do? You don't have dig through time. It's like, oh, I got relic. And they're just like, how is that even the same card?
You know what you do have access to if you play Relic, though? You can play Wasteland Strangler. And that is a card.
What is that card?
Okay, that's a Battle for Zendikar card. It's 3 mana Eldrazi, 2 and a black. It's a devoid card. 3/2. And it says when it enters the battlefield, you may put a card from an opponent controls from exile back into their graveyard. If you do, target creature gets -3/-3.
Oh, taxes. Like a black-white taxes deck.
Exactly.
Yeah,
works with Tide Hollow Skull.
Yeah,
works with
dumb with Tide Hollow Scholar.
That's dope.
But it works with your Relic plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could play Fatal Push, or you could play Wasteland Strangler.
basically the same.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
combos
Fatal
with
Push
the
goes to your
relic.
graveyard after.
Yeah, you don't want the
Yeah.
cards in your
Yeah.
graveyard. You want them in exile.
Yeah, Wasteland Strangler stays on the battlefield. This thing has got to go to Beat Town.
But what do you actually play? You've got a sweet list, right?
Red green.
Red, green.
Red green. As soon as they banned Astrolabe, I was like, maybe it's time for Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Let's get Blood Moon in here. So I brewed up a couple. I brewed some like really terrible lists, like some really funky lists with the Karn package, liquid metal coating main board with a bunch of Abrade effects and Ancient Grudges.
Yeah.
That deck was fun and funny. Like a turn 2 Karn was pretty good. That won a lot of games, but
Yeah, it did.
but now it's just, what do I have? 4 to 5 main board Blood Moon effects, and then 6 goblins like Rabble Master and Legion War Boss. So it's quite aggressive. It's like the Ponza list. I don't know.
Ponza without Ponza.
Ponza without Ponza, more Blood Moon, and then we got some real funkiness that I thought for sure was going to be a throwaway card. Like I usually like to add 1 or 2 cards that I want to see if they're playable or not. And in my head, I'm already knowing that it's bad, but I just want to get it out of my system.
Sure.
And that card in this deck has been Torbrand.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing you do that on stream.
But as soon as I started playing that, I was like, oh no, this card is
A
good.
little taxing on your red, but
Oh, but man.
triple red's like playing Kiki Chiki.
It also makes, oddly enough, this is kind of funky, but it gives more pips to Colossus to turn it to a creature.
Absolutely, it does.
And also Colossus, it deals 4 now.
Right.
Like Ren and 6 deals 3, everything.
Yeah, Red and 6 down ticking being a bolt is what's absurd to me.
Yeah.
Like the fact that your Rabble Masters are all not also not
It
making
deals 4 is more than a bolt.
Ren and 6 ticking down.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking Colossus.
No,
Yeah.
like the down tick on
Yeah,
Ren and
it's a
6.
bolt.
Rabble Master making
3/3s.
goblins. They're making 3/3s. Like it's scary. I've never played against you when you've gotten Torbrand out,
Oh, man.
but I imagine it's. I guess my question is at that point that you get Torbrand out, is it win more or does it actually help you come back if you're behind?
If I'm really behind, it doesn't do shit. That is kind of like the downside of the deck. Like, if I'm quite behind, it doesn't really have a way of coming back.
Right.
But, like, it incrementally... I've had games where I'm like, I'm dead right now, but I have them kind of low. But if I didn't have Torbrand, say they're at, like, 6 or something like that, some weird number where I can't just get anything and just kill them, like a lightning bolt or something like that. But if I get Torbrand out and I have tokens out with all the goblins, all the seasoned pyromancer tokens and stuff like that, sometimes I'm just like, Torbrand is the only thing that wins me the game right now.
Sure.
In a position where I shouldn't be. Like that's the only thing.
It's your team. It's your team or battle rage.
Right.
No, so it sounds like you're a little more aggressively slanted then.
He is.
My understanding is
Yeah.
the red-green decks that are... So Ponza, for anyone who doesn't know, Ponza usually refers to the red-green archetype of old that actually is like more focused on land destruction. And after they kind of switched off of that for a little while, they still had the Blood Moon effects, but they switched more into like a mid-rangey kind of feel.
They
They
kind
were-
of 2 pillage.
They weren't playing Molten Rains anymore.
Yeah.
They weren't playing Stone Rains. They switched over. But the versions that are more popular online, you'll see more 2-drops. You'll see things like Scavenging Ooze. You'll see things like... you won't see Ren and 6 usually, but you'll see... sometimes you'll see Tracker. Sometimes you'll see Seasoned Pyromancer. 4 mana, they see Bloodbraid Elf, and they are more on Glorybringer. So they're more on like extra value that way, stickier threats, like kind of things like that. This aggro version, no. I'm intrigued.
It's been doing me good. Besides that one game that I don't know if I slept that night after I punted so badly.
Yeah, I was
so
that's
bad.
okay. It happens, but I'm not gonna lie. I was watching the stream and I was like, at one point in time when you were talking to the chat and you were doing something that wasn't winning you the game, I was like, he's gonna punt this.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna do it because you were just distracted. You were talking to the chat.
I was so
and
distracted.
what did you draw? You had the game wrapped up. All you had to do was
Critter
go.
Maker. It was Critter Maker.
All you
No,
had to,
Maker was on the battlefield.
right. So all you had to do was leave 1 mana open to attack into a worm coil, and then hit the worm coil after it blocked, so he couldn't gain life.
I didn't need to cast anything.
Didn't need to cast anything, but he drew something that was like fun, quote unquote,
fun.
to cast. He's like, oh, I get to meme on him a little bit, and then I watch him tap the last land and cast the spell. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, as soon as I cast it, I was like,
Oh, I can't win.
I did it. I think throughout the entire thing, I'm like, I just win no matter what. But I'm like, I'll find a way to fuck this up.
I even typed that in chat. I was like, oh, this game's in the bag.
Yeah.
Like, I got this.
I got this. And I said out loud, I'm like, I'll find a way to fuck it up. I'll find a way to fuck it up. And I was like, ooh, look at this. I'll cast. Oh, yeah, I did it.
Somebody else messaged in chat, and he's like talking to chat, casting his other spells. I'm like, stop. He said, stop.
No joke. I had like a breakdown.
It happens, dude. I've made some terrible punts at bigger tournaments. It's just a league.
I'm over it. I've slept a couple nights since then.
Just one.
Yeah,
you're good. But Brinson, what are you playing?
I'm playing all sorts of shit at this point. I really want to do a league with 5 color elementals.
Of course. That wasn't shots fired. That's just, of course. I know that's your pet deck. That's your baby.
Yeah.
I hear it's doing good.
It's like me when I pick back up Abzan or something weird, or
Mardu Dredge, you piece of shit.
Yeah. Hey, that deck is sweet. I should.
So is 5 color elementals.
I should talk about that after you talk about this.
So I've also been playing a lot of control decks lately. Control was like the archetype that got me into competitive Magic. When I was like 13, I got memed on at the library just by people playing control decks. And I was just like, I'm never going to play control decks. And then I started playing control decks, and I was just like, oh, I love this. And then I stopped. As soon as I picked up Shadow, I didn't touch another control deck for forever. I was just always about mid-range decks. But I have all the Uros, I have the Cryptic Commands, I have all these tools, and I just wasn't playing control. So there's a part of me that was just like, maybe I should start playing control since I have the tools, and it's not terribly positioned right now. So I've been playing a lot of blue-red. I took a list from online that was pretty sweet where it used Rael and then the discard planeswalkers. So Royal Scions. Why are you?
Oh, I'm just saying, I'm smiling because the deck is funky. It's kind of in my wheelhouse of
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's shitty.
Does it make the spice rack?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Rael in Modern.
Rael.
It's sweet. It's sick.
And then the 4 mana Teferi that you get to activate every turn. So you're never actually getting card selection. You're actually starting to accrue card advantage off of it, which is really sweet. So I was playing that for a little bit. I played Blue-Red through the breach yesterday. I'm going to be playing some Sultai Control today. I want to try Band Control, but I don't have Stoneforge Mystics. But I've just been doing a lot of control decks. Brian has been playing a lot of Goblins. I've been wanting to play more Goblins, but we only have 1 copy of the deck right now, so I'm letting him play it because I'm trying to test all these other things out. So those are definitely Goblins and Control are what I've been playing lately.
Did you check out those blue-red players I was talking to you about?
Yeah, I actually took the Pen Swords list.
Yeah, so just to plug these guys quick, they're big MTG online grinders. The Pen Sword, it's just the 3 words, the Pen Sword all together. He's a really good blue-red player. Sven Sfeeder, I think is his name.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to spell that. If you just type Sven recent finishes, you should find him. And then another guy, I forget his name, but they are big blue-red players. If you're a blue-red fan, the Pen Sword is constantly 5-0 in leagues. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he does really good innovations with
everything. He plays every variant too. He'll play blue-red through the breach. He'll play blue-red control. He'll play blue-red tempo. He's played 4 Bone Crushers, 4 Brazen Bars, that blue-red list I played in standard.
Ooh.
No Brymore Cutthroats, but Snapcasters, Bone Crusher Giants, and Brazen Borrowers, and then he.
That's him sweet.
Good. That's really good player. It's just one of those guys where you look at it and you're like, I don't think this guy's winning because his deck's good. I think he's winning because he's good. Yeah. So for sure.
Well, yeah. Once you master an archetype, you kind of get to start doing that.
For sure. But I want to talk about this deck quick though, because this is a buddy of mine. His name's Nate. He's from Rochester. He owns a shop called D6 Games. Check it out if you're ever in Rochester. D6 Games. He plays Mardu Dredge. And he's not playing green at all. No Life from the Loam, no Nature's Claim, nothing. Did you watch me play this on stream?
No.
Nathan?
So
okay.
It sucks because every time you stream, it's when I'm working.
Okay.
It's because it's usually in the morning.
Right. I switched my schedule to morning streaming now because I've been working till 2:30 in the morning most nights. So that sucks.
I've heard about this deck through the grapevine,
right,
and immediately intrigued.
So he's not playing Bloodghast.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's playing Silver Smote Ghoul.
That's the new one.
The new card. So for those of you that don't know, it's a 3-mana 3/1 that says, I'm going to paraphrase this. I don't know the exact wording. As long as this card was in your graveyard, if you gained life at any point this turn, it comes back to play at the beginning of the end step. And you can pay 1 and a black while it's in play to sacrifice it to draw a card. That comes up sometimes, not often, but what's really innovative about this deck is Smiting Helix.
Yeah.
There's 4 copies of Smiting Helix in the main deck and 3 Ox of Agonis. No Conflagrate, no Life in the Loam, no Long Game Engine in the main deck. Your primary plan is to turn over your deck as fast as you possibly can and win that way. The reason why he actually, I don't want to say this wrong. I don't think he found the deck himself, but I think he pioneered this version where people were basically adding ghouls into original Dredge as another axis alongside Creeping Chill.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right. He changed it into fully streamlined because he is under the strong assumption that Ox of Agonis and Conflagrate clash with each other more often in certain matchups
I would agree with
than
that.
they should. Because you have situations where you get into, I really want to set up lone Conflag, but Ox of Agonis is in my graveyard and could just turbo me out. So you end up sometimes you make the wrong decision. Sometimes it clashes with each other. They use the same resource. So this is the best Ox Dredge deck I've ever played in my time playing with Ox. And it plays really it's a sorcery speed deck. So if you have Merchant of the Veil in your hand, you're casting that on your main phase because you're not. If you have a Dredger, you're not going to wait till your opponent's turn because Silver Smoke Ghoul can only come back if you've gained life during your turn.
Yeah.
So that's something that changes things a little bit.
Also, not running 4 Narcomoebas.
2 Narcomoebas is what we were on right now, and that's kind of a way to bring Amalgam back. I don't know if that's even going to stay though because
you cut them every single time.
Because they're easy cuts. They only stay in if you're trying to pressure Planeswalkers and things like that. But they come out more often than they stay in. And the deck is surprisingly resilient. Smiting Helix as a removal spell out of the graveyard that still brings your cards back, it feels pretty good because you still gain the life, doesn't matter what you target. And Ghoul plays around Anger of the Gods very well because Ghoul comes back at your end step, which means Amalgams don't come back to your opponent's end step. So you lose a little bit of you lose the intricacy of at your opponent's end of main phase, crack a fetch line, bring back Bloodghast, bring back Amalgam. Instead, you have, I'm going to bring back 2 ghouls, trigger 4 Amalgams. You got an Anger Gods in your hand. Are you going to cast it and take out 2 creatures, or are you going to take 4 or 15 damage and then do it? Plays around it pretty well. The draw card thing, yeah, it's a sweet deck. You don't actually have that poor of sideboard options either. Instead of Nature's Claim, you have Wear Tear. Pretty similar card in my opinion. Not quite as good at pegging artifacts as Nature's Claim is, but you don't necessarily need to. Leyline of the Voids, Thought Seizes, things like that. It was a fun deck. Really fun deck. People are gunning for graveyard decks now, though, so it's gotten worse. But when Brinson watched me stream for the first time, I went 4-1 3 leagues in a row and I was misplaying and barely sequencing correctly, and it was still just that powerful.
It reminds me, when people aren't gunning for graveyard, it reminds me of a more resilient mono red prowess because it has the burn elements. Mm-hmm. You have life gain. You have really powerful threats that are very recursive. If Graveyard Hate went away again, I would play that deck over mono red prowess in a heartbeat because that deck just seems way better positioned against that.
It is really nutty too because one of the things that's really frustrating about Ox is when you do the Ox with Bloodghast, you can't trigger Bloodghast the turn you play Ox if you play it on 2. This deck can play turn 2 Ox and bring everything back because all you have to do is find 1 Creeping Chill. Ox doesn't need, you don't have to have a land to trigger Bloodghast. You just, all right, I haggled my turn, discarding a Stinkweed, dredged 5, untapped, dredged 3 or 4 or whatever it is. I think we're only dredging 4 because we have 1 Dark Blast. That's right, 1 Dark Blast. And then I have enough cards in my graveyard to go for an Ox, and then I'm just going to bring back 3 Ghouls and 3 Amalgams at your end. I've killed people on turn 3 a couple of times. It's gross.
Damn.
It's gross. Yeah.
I want to see this thing.
Yeah, I'll send you a list for sure. I'll try to play it on stream sometime when you can watch.
Yeah. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Anything you guys think is particularly strong outside of what we talked about in Modern?
I think big mana is still the way to go.
Okay.
I think that how do I put this? I don't think aggro has gotten enough good tools over the last 2 years that big mana has gotten, that even good aggro decks, I think, struggle to keep up with big mana decks.
Sure.
I think that watching you play the Dredge deck actually seemed like it had a great matchup against the Titan decks. Because, you're not trying to interact. And I also think Scapeshift is probably even a good matchup for you, too.
Bajuka Bog is annoying, but yeah.
Yeah. But I think Titan has moved away from Bajuka Bog for the most part.
Sure, it's still a fine one up somewhere in 25, but yeah.
But yeah, I think that big mana is just the way to go. Uro is still not as omnipresent, but definitely still very powerful, very around. I think out of every league, I go against 3 Uro decks in every single league that I play.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's over 50%.
See, I get weird leagues. I get weird leagues all the time. I play my like weirdo decks, like Monastery, Swiss Spear, Aggro with Death Shadow, and I get paired against like. I mean, I guess mono white tokens is something I saw somebody post an article about. So it can't be that
I
crazy.
did play against that.
And then I played against like a Bant company deck that just. You can't beat that deck as a Death Shadow deck because they played Fibblethip, Charming Prince, like no Soul Herder, but they just were all about like I'm going to draw 1,000,000 cards and I'm going to bury you and like collect company. No big creatures. Neither the Reliquary wasn't even in the list. It was like Eternal Witness, Fibblethip, Charming Prince, Flicker Wisp, like
nothing worth actually killing.
Nothing worth playing in your deck normally, but
they all replace themselves.
Right. Or Fibblethip draws 2 cards if you company it because it comes in from your Yeah, right. Yeah. I get weirdo decks like that. Are you guys believers in the Eldrazi Tron?
I hate that deck. I don't. Just because I hate it doesn't mean that I don't think that it's fine. I think that it's probably the prison deck of the format, like the prison elements that it has. And I mean, if big mana's popular though, I don't think that deck is good.
That's fair. That's fair. I actually have been feeling like my games against it felt more mid-range to me more than prison. It has a prison element to it.
Right. It's a mid-range deck with prison elements that's supposed to feast on the other mid-range
decks. You have a... People are talking about this as the best deck in the format, right?
Oh, I would never call that deck the best deck in the format.
I think it fits the bill like Jund does, where it's like if it's good, it's very, very good. And if it's bad, it's very, very bad.
Yeah.
But because I think it leverages a bit more than Jund does in the sense of like it never gets as bad as Jund can get some metas because it always has the prison elements. Like, Chalice on 1 is very good in Modern against a lot of decks, and Karn is very strong. And like you always have the nut draw of like Tron on turn 3, do something stupid. Like that's just what happens. So
it doesn't seem to me. At least I haven't experienced a time where Eldrazi Tron was just like a nuisance. It seems like it comes up where it's just really good in the format.
It is the most played deck right now in Modern.
And then it like evens out.
Not by a lot. But.
I feel like it's happened quite a bit, even in the past year, where it's like, oh man, this is a really good deck. But then things will change, and it'll just be like, it'll always be a good deck.
Do you always still notice that the deck always becomes the most popular after a ban?
Yeah.
Because it's tried and true. Like the only thing that has ever gotten banned out of that deck. I'm talking E-Tron. I'm not talking about regular Eldrazi because I'm not bringing up Ayabugan.
That was in E-Tron, though, wasn't it? Oh no, E-Tron didn't exist. You're right. Yeah, you're right. It would have been. The only card that got banned out of it was Microsynth Lattice. That was just a Karn package target. Like you just replaced it with something else, like Sundering Titan.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like the biggest deal. It has like the Ponza effect where like sometimes you're just going to win games because you stick a Chalice on 1 or Ponza sticks a Blood Moon on like turn 2 and like, well, my mana's not good enough for that and like I'm going to lose the game. So like, yeah, it has like the free win element, but I don't think it's like great.
I think Maze Mind Tome is a big get for that deck.
That card is absurd.
Like Mindstone enables your fast draws, right? Like Mindstone enables like a turn 3 Reality Smasher with like only 1 temple, right? Or like only
you need 2 temples for that.
Not if you play Mindstone, though, is what I'm saying. Like if you go Eldrazi Temple, or if you go land and then Eldrazi Temple, Mindstone, and then land, you got to.
Oh, you said turn 3 for some reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, or like I guess you can't turn 2 Reality Smasher.
No.
Like, right. So like that card gives it something to do with its mana because one of the things that like that deck doesn't mulligan that well on like normal Tron because it doesn't.
It needs a lot more of its pieces.
Its payoffs aren't as backbreaking as Karn Liberated and Ugin are, and it's like and
it doesn't have as much like efficiency to get Tron.
Like Karn the Great Creator doesn't always protect itself that well unless you're going to get exactly Ensnaring Bridge, right? So like if you're going to go get a lock piece like Liquid No Coating or a Dredge Hate piece or something like that, Karn still dies to the battlefield. So you need to have other components going on as well. But like that deck getting the ability to like play Maze Mind Tome and then immediately dig 3 cards potentially because you go scry, untap scry, and find something that is relevant to you is like it's pretty good. Like I think that's a big get for that deck.
And then late game you have so much mana.
And the gain 4 is not that irrelevant. Like gain 4 life is not that bad. Like that's going to beat some decks, especially if you're flipping it. When it comes down in turn 2, it's got to have 4 counters on it to flip.
So it's activated.
I say flip, I mean gain 4 life. So like activate.
Is it 4 or is it 3?
It's 4.
It's 4.
Oh man.
You could gain 4 life 3 turns later, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the deck that doesn't deal itself any mana from its mana base.
Yeah.
Turn 5 gain 4 is not that bad against Burn, Like
I mean, Burn is already like their best matchup. It's the best matchup they can go against.
And like against control, and if you have Tron or all the mana in the world, you could draw 4 cards with it.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. And you can also, it buys you time, like for sure. It gives you something to do with extra mana on turns. Because, like, let's be honest, that deck was looking for something better to do with this mana than Matter Reshaper. Because Matter Reshaper, I think, is not
the worst card in the
deck. It's a pretty embarrassing card, but I get why it's there. It blocks for Karn. It draws you a card. It can crew the Sky Sovereign that they get out of the sideboard.
It's a safe turn 2 card if you don't get the nutty.
It'll buy you time and draw you a card, potentially nut you into another temple off the top or something. You know, I get why it's there, but it's weak.
Yeah.
If you have the option between Maze Mind Tome and Matter Reshaper now, you're going to play Maze Mind Tome. So I like that.
Yeah, so are they playing the other than the land from Ikoria that lets them draw a card too? Or no? Is that like just brief testing? Do you know?
The land.
Oh,
yeah.
They were playing that.
Yeah, there's a land that if you control a creature of power 4 or greater, you draw a card.
Oh. I was thinking you were talking about Seagate Wreckage for a second.
No.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's from Ikoria because like now they're just getting like insane card advantage cards. Like Maze My Tome it's not, I guess, card advantage, but it's card selection.
Yeah,
it can be card advantage. It draws cards.
Right, it does require mana, but yep, I agree. I like that card a lot. I think it's sweet.
I like that they keep printing cards like that because there's like the map, treasure map, and the card that you used in standard. What is that?
Azor's Gateway?
Azor's Gateway.
Yeah.
Shit like that. I like those.
Those cards didn't quite break their way into Modern,
No.
but the Tome is definitely a little bit step above those. I think Treasure Map was fine, but the fact that Treasure Map couldn't draw you a card until later on.
Right, it's too slow.
Right, a little bit too slow for sure. What other cards from the new sets have been getting played? Chandra's Incinerator, what do we think about that card?
I thought it was sweet, but apparently there was a bunch of decks that were playing it, and then those decks just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
is it inconsistency, do you think, or what is it?
I don't know if it's inconsistency. I don't think it's maybe as powerful as just Burn is. Like, Vexing Devil was never a very good card in Modern. It's not
giving your opponent the choices.
Yes.
Yeah, generally pretty bad.
And the fact that it was playing 4 of those to try to like speed out the Incinerator. Like when I was playing, what deck was I playing? Blue-Red Control Through League. The guy went turn 1 Seal of Fire, turn 2 Seal of Fire, turn 1 Seal of Fire, go past the turn, Lava Spike you, sack Seal of Fire, Chandra's Incinerator. Next turn, Rift Bolt or Lava Spike you, Bolt you, another Chandra's Incinerator. I'm like, I can't win from here. Like, so like it did some really powerful things, and like a 6/6 for 6 that you're never paying 6 for is really, really good. I don't know. I haven't played enough of the deck to know, but like it has to be a consistency issue.
Maybe it's this is a weird interaction that I just thought of, but maybe it gets worse alongside like Leyline of Sanctity because it's just an uncastable card if your opponent has Leyline.
Sure.
I don't know. That's a really fringe scenario, but like
because I mean, like how good is Leyline? Like Leyline,
there's only a couple of decks that play it.
Yeah. Because isn't Leyline of Sanctity is a card that's lost a ton of quality over the years.
It's just like Neobrand and like some Dredulous play a couple copies in their sideboard. So that's all I see.
Okay. I mean,
maybe Ad Nauseam plays it.
Yeah, they do.
But still, though, like those decks aren't the most popular decks. But yeah, I don't know.
And it's not even that good of a
Burn things got tough for Burn quick because Uro's rough and the decks that.
But see, Incinerator were supposed to leverage the Uro decks because like the fact that like I'm going to Searing Blaze you and Uro, and now I can kill Uro with 1 spell and still hit you for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if I point Burn at your face, I can still have the option to clear your Uro with Chandra's Incinerator, and that was supposed to make things better.
Sure. Maybe it's just the clunkiness of draws sometimes.
Yeah, because I imagine that Vexing Devil, much like Death Shadow, is never really like a turn 1 play. Like you're trying to save it for a time where it's like, well, if they take 4, then I can play my Chandra's Incinerator.
Also, like Incinerator might feel like a Gurmag Angler for Shadow 2, where you're happy to see the first, but less happy to see more copies unless you continue to find your stream of burn spells. So that could be something. What else got print? There's been a lot of prints, hasn't there? Like things have been popping up from the last 2 sets.
Yeah.
I haven't opened any of the last 2 sets, so I'm trying to remember cards just like that.
Yeah, so Shark Typhoon took off.
Right, that was at Korea though.
Yeah,
right.
That was the last 2 sets.
I thought it was 3 sets ago. Am I wrong? Oh, you're right. Yeah. Korea was companion sets, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was.
But there's been M21, and then there was another set.
Ikoria.
No, just Ikoria 21.
Okay.
Yeah,
they've been coming out with so many products.
Double Masters is where my mind is.
And what is Jumpstart?
Yeah. The fact that Jumpstart's legal and historic, segue here for a second. Muxus is a busted goblin and should not be allowed in historic.
No, they're banning it. They're 100% banning
it. Like, it's lights out in Legacy because of Goblin Lackey, but like that should be the
That's
only
weird.
set it should be legal in. That and Vintage.
I mean, we
which,
can make it legal in Modern. It'd be fine.
It probably would be because you don't really get that much. I mean, wait.
No, it would not be okay in Modern.
Well, can you cheat that thing and play in Modern? I don't think you can.
No, you just
Lackey's not legal. Oh yeah, but that requires some. That requires like what? You have to go turn 1 Skirk Prospector, turn 2 Mog War Marshal, and then you can turn 3 it.
Yeah.
What are you taking out to put it in?
It's a one of.
Are you kidding, dude? You would if you got Muxus, you would just cut like the interactive spells. You
You just need one. Because
Yeah.
Goblin Matron's a card.
Oh yeah,
You would just you would
Yeah.
also just run
Matron and the Harbinger, like
Right.
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
ringleader.
All right. We don't need to explore this. This
Yeah.
guy's busted.
Yeah.
I did want to backtrack. A little
Okay.
bit,
Yeah.
like,
Let's do it.
just like to the incinerator thing, and like how
Yeah.
it's not that
Yeah.
popular. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like, could some of it be with it's just not popular enough that so not enough people are actually testing it out?
That
People are like sidetracked into doing these other things. So like,
that definitely could be. I mean, like whenever there's a ban, people try to go back to like their tried and true, and like Incinerator was a deck that was still trying to like kind of find its footing, find its perfect build. Like, so I imagine that like maybe that 100% could be it.
and also if E-Tron's really popular, like
Right.
maybe you don't want to be jamming a bunch of one drops
Yeah.
against the challenge
Yeah.
deck.
That's true.
So the modern challenge. What's today's date?
726.
726.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the modern challenge results got posted from yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this deck dump yet.
No.
Eldrazi Tron took first.
Who was it? The channeling
It
cat?
was, I don't know if this is the actual Mateus, but it's Mateus F34.
Oh yeah, dude, that guy gets like he
Right.
plays. Yeah, that's
Band Control took second. Blue, black, red, green is the name of this one, but it
It's
looks
gonna
like
be
it's
a
just
shadow.
it looks like it's an Uro Wilderness Reclamation deck with Nexus of Fate.
Well, it's been fun. That's our show.
That one took third. Grixis Shadow took fourth, but Mario Gomes is
Yes.
he's doing some interesting things with it. He's got Young Pyromancer in this list in the main deck. I've seen him play Bone Crusher Giants and things like that.
Yeah.
So not sure about that one. The
He's
next
been posting a lot in the
he's been 5-0ing a lot, yeah.
no in the shadow.
Oh,
chat.
I'm not in that chat.
Oh, okay.
Though, yeah. Then fifth place was Dredge. Looks like they're just traditional prized amalgam bloodgas Dredge, not the spicy cool Dredge.
No one's ready for
Sixth was Jun Death Shadow with he's got my Gore Clan Rampage. This man's after my heart. This might be Dylan Hovey actually. Hovey DW.
Yeah, it's Dylan.
Yeah, so he's got 1 Luris, 1 Gore Clan Rampager, a couple of Spell Bombs main, 4 Traverse, 2 push, 2 bolt, 8 discard spells. 7th was Red Green Midrange. No Torbrand.
Idiots.
Yeah.
That would be the difference between
Yeah.
7th place and first place.
And 8th is Dredge. This one looks like it is.
Looks like people aren't respecting
hybrid.
graveyard again.
This one looks closer to our list, actually. This is the one that I just told you about, the Ox. But they're on 2
Really?
Smiting Helix, 3 Life in the Loam. So 4-color Dredge.
Oh.
I mean, Dredge is a deck that can get away with.
Yeah.
It's
So
pretty
I guess I'm a little surprised to see Dredge 2 copies in the top 8. I'm a little surprised. I thought people, especially when you look at 2 Scavenging Ooze, 3 Clothis main deck of this red-green deck. You look at 2 Spellbomb in the main of a Death Shadow deck. You look at like Grixis. I don't think is Grixis Cling to Dusting people. Yeah, he's got 3 Cling to Dust in his deck. And
But see, Cling to Dust is really awkward against the Dredge deck because a lot of the things that you want to target are the cards
Yeah.
that are gaining you life.
Gain 3 is a little rough. I agree. But like this doesn't seem like the most healthy format for graveyard decks. Like Eldrazi Tron's got access to their Tormod scripts and Grafdigger's cages, and
Yeah.
like, I don't know how I feel about this.
I wonder what the rest of the format is. Like, if everything is kind of like the Wild West still, is the
Mhm.
band
It might be.
thing? Like, maybe the rest of the format was just kind of crazy.
Well,
The
this is-
matchups just worked out well.
This is a nice segue into what you and I talked about earlier, Mason, with this band control deck that took second, mashed together things that we talked about didn't seem like they should go well together. And we didn't. I don't think you were down here at this time, Brinson, but Icefang Coatl is a 4 Stoneforge Mystic, 3 Uro, 2 Teferi, 1 Jace, the Mind Sculptor, 1 Teferi Hero Dominaria, 3 Force of Negation, 2 Cryptic Command with 1 Mystic Sanctuary. So Mason and I were talking. Uro doesn't seem like the best card for the Stoneforge Mystic versions of that deck because it doesn't really play that well on your curve. You've got
Right.
other components going on. I don't think Stoneforge Mystic works in Modern the same way it does in Legacy with like Mason and I were talking, it's not as lights out.
There's no JIT.
There's no JIT.
Yeah.
There's no bust. There's not. People aren't weak to Batterskull like they are in Legacy. People aren't weak to JIT like they are in Legacy. Like not that JIT's even legal, but like we were talking about how we feel like you should choose a camp. Uro doesn't go in both versions.
Right.
Uro goes in the longer longevity game. It's a nice bridge on 3 mana to like.
I don't even know how much I like Uro in the Mystic Sanctuary decks.
Right.
Like those are almost.
Well, this is one Sanctuary which I approve of. I think
Yeah.
one Sanctuary is pretty free at that point. Like he's not going hard on it, but like I think Queller could be better than.
I hate Queller. And I don't think it's a good card. I don't think it's a modern playable card.
Get out!
I'm dead serious.
Like
Like
sick with Teferi. It's so
I get it.
awesome.
I get it. I get the cuteness. I get the synergy. But if you have a Teferi, play more powerful cards. Like
No, man, it's so good. So also you can bounce it and do another thing. I love it. Every single time I've seen it, I'm like, I wish I would be doing this.
I know.
Of course, if it doesn't line up, it's awful.
yeah.
Like,
Right. I think, though, that Icewind Quaddle is obviously good with Stoneforge Mystic. 100%.
Yes.
I think it's good. But Uro doesn't seem as necessary to me. So, like, what in this version? So, why are you playing Bant when you could play 4 Field of Ruin, blue-white with Shark Typhoon as your Icewind Quaddle?
See, my argument is why aren't you playing Sultai?
Sure.
I think
Fine.
Sultai is better because it has way better interactive spells. I think that you cut the Stormforge Mystics for more interaction. I think the version I'm playing today either it runs pushes, not thought seizes. So,
Sure. The alternative component to that is blue-white is less weak to cards like Veil of Summer. Because Path to Exile, Supreme Verdict,
Sure.
Right.
although Damnation or whatever you're playing as your sweeper, Dead of Winter or whatever it is not going to be quite the same effect. But like Path to Exile has a bit more of a like finality to it than Fatal Push having more answers. But I agree. I think that this is kind of clearly he took second with it, so he might know something we don't, or maybe his draws never got clunky. But I feel like you want to play Stoneforge on turn 2 a lot. At least to just draw a card and draw a removal spell out of your opponent's hand, or maybe you're not playing on turn 2. Maybe you're playing Quaddle on turn 2 and Stoneforge is a turn 5 or 6 play. But I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that being good.
Like, how is that optimal?
Because it's not like Batterskull on an open board does clear the way for things, but like I don't think that I think it's better leveraged early, right? Like
I could be biased and also I could just be flat out wrong about this. I've just never really cared for Stoneforge Mystic in like a very control-y deck.
Yeah.
right.
I kind of like the idea of the tempo-y deck where you're actually progressively getting to someplace fairly
You just
fast.
like spell killer. Shut up.
I mean, it doesn't have to be Spellkiller. It can be
No.
it can be any other 3-drop that carries a Swordwell. It can be, but also notably, this Bant deck has no Snapcaster Mages.
Yeah, that seems wrong. Snapcaster.
Again, like conflicting things here, right?
Yeah.
Like Icewind Quaddle plays a bit better with Mystic Sanctuary, but we're only playing one,
Right.
and Snapcaster Mage doesn't really like.
Snapcaster gets awkward with Uro though too.
Right, that's the thing. So like,
Yeah.
you pick a camp, right? Like
Right,
you
yeah.
pick. Quaddle, I feel like, is not as strong anymore with the addition of Shark Typhoon and with the loss of Arkham's Astrolabe. I think.
It's definitely
it's so-
not as good.
It's not as good, but it's still good.
It's still quite good.
But if you're playing a Mystic Sanctuary Cryptic Command deck, how are you fetching for Snow-Covered Forest to cast that thing?
That is fair.
That's not the basics that you care about. You don't go for the snow.
Well, if
Right.
you're trying
Okay.
for an early death
So you're going for a
right?
breeding pool? That makes
So,
that makes your like aggro matchup slightly worse, right? Because you have to fetch for for a
Right.
blue green land that enables your Mystic Sanctuary and your Cryptic Command, but
Yeah.
deals you damage. So you can, and it doesn't enable Quaddle.
Yeah, Quaddle won't be a
Right.
Quaddle will be a
but
Death Toucher till turn 3.
Yes.
Or
I mean,
4.
yeah. So the thing that they did was they made it so Quaddle doesn't turn on Death Touch as fast, but like also is Quaddle a snow permanent?
It isn't, but it doesn't count itself.
It's others.
Right. So
It counts other Quaddles.
yes.
But
So if you have a snow-covered island, and then you go get a Triumph, or this is
sure,
the
yeah,
version.
sure.
Yeah, and you play your
A
Quaddle.
blue green land that's an island.
Yes. Yep. And you play your Quaddle. And then the next turn you untap, you play another snow-covered island, you pass the turn, they go to combat and they attack, you put in another Quaddle, now they have Death Touch again.
Okay, that's fair. So you can still get the turn 3, but it does require 2 Quaddles.
Yes.
So you can't just get there as much with just the lands.
Quaddle, but like cards that replace themselves are generally good at finding themselves, right?
Right, but in Stoneforge Mystic and Modern, in my personal opinion, I played this card a lot in Legacy, and it's different in Legacy. Obviously, it's not. There's certain decks that just can't beat a turn 2 Stoneforge in Legacy.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make direct comparisons here. the thing about like Stoneforge is that you get a lot more in Modern out of a tempo oriented thing, and I don't think Quaddle generates tempo obviously because it replaces itself, it places the board, it trades up. That's tempo in a nutshell, right? Like you play to the board and you trade up in mana, but it doesn't like Snapcaster replaces itself as well, and Snapcaster pressures Planeswalkers a bit better and can like
also, but Snapcaster gets gummed up on the ground. Quaddle doesn't.
Fair. That's a fair assessment as well. I agree.
Like,
I think that that's an interesting component of it as well. But I think that without Ice or without Arkham's Astrolabe, I don't know if Quaddle is quite as much of a house. Like you said, you have a scenario where you get 2 Death Touchers on turn 3, but then you know a Bolt can still change that whole plan.
Yep.
Like
I mean, you're a lot more likely to get blown out,
right?
But the fact that it's still just a 1/1 flyer flash that replaces itself is sometimes just good enough. And a lot of the times you're using it for like the draw, chump, save my life a little bit. I'm now filling up the yard for Uro. So you're using resources trying to get rid of these Death Touchers, and then you're going to have a real hard time getting rid of this 6/6 that's going to take over the game.
Right. That's fair. I think also notably though too is it gets clunkier specifically with playing a 3-color mana base without Astrolabe because your dual lanes aren't snow and they don't enable Quaddle, but you need to get your duals because you have to cast your Path to Exiles and your Teferis and your Uros and your you know, I almost said Baleful Strix there and say Icefang Quaddle, but like
it's better.
It taxes you in a bit of a, you know, like it feels like I'm fetching in my old Steplinks Death Shadow deck, man.
Yeah.
Like
what do I get? Yeah, no, it definitely. I think 3-color mana bases definitely got worse. I mean, of course they did. They lost
specifically in this archetype where you're trying to get triple island 4/6 ancient. Yep.
But I don't think that like I personally have never been impressed with Stoneforge Mystic. Cool, you got a Batter Skull out of your deck, and like that card might be a threat in a couple turns, but I'm just going to kill your Stoneforge Mystic. Like I've never been super impressed. I don't think if I ever played a Bat control deck that I would put Stoneforge in my deck, but. I mean, clearly it worked. Like, sometimes the swords can be, like...
Well, that's the other thing I should tell you, too. I should look at his list one more time just to make sure I get it right. 1 Sword of Feast and Famine, 1 Batter Skull. So this is, again, really interesting to me. Feast of Famine is better...
It's the best sword.
At generating the... Well, it's better at generating the tap-out turns, right?
Yes.
So, like, it doesn't really fit as well into in some of the tempo shells because... I mean, it does, but it doesn't because it's the best sword, like you said, in Modern because blue-red isn't really necessary to be protection from, and the black is good. The untapping your mana is the real thing. Like connecting with a Sword of Feast and Famine, making your opponent discard is fine, but it's likely not going to win the game on its own. It's like tap out for Jace, hit you with a sword, untap, leave up Cryptic Command. You know,
tap out control decks have also gotten substantially better with the printing of Force Negation.
Correct.
So like you're able to tap out and be like. And not have to worry about your stuff dying because, I mean, you have Force of Negation. So, like, a lot of times, at the very worst case scenario, you can do it. I think Stoneforge is also played in Modern as heavily as it is because when you're playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, which this guy is, right? 1 Jace or...
1 Jace, 2 Teferi, 3 mana, and 1 Teferi Hero of Dominar.
So, it also shuffles your deck. It's just like the whole Cobblade argument is like, I want ways to shuffle my deck so to break it up if I don't have fetches.
Right. Also, what's the buff? What's the buff on the sword? Is it +2/+2?
It's +2/+2.
They're all +2/+2.
So
and then
Stoneforge becomes a 3/4?
Stoneforge likely is usually not the sword carrier.
Yeah.
That's the other part.
If it is,
it becomes a 3/4. Yep. That's the other thing I don't necessarily like about this list is that like you're not having any creatures carry a sword early other than Quaddle because Stoneforge doesn't really attack that well and like Quaddle does obviously, but Uro doesn't come down.
The other thing that I don't like about as someone who plays a lot of interactive decks, the Stoneforge argument is every time they put like a sword into play and they're just like, I'm going to go to equip. It's like, oh, in response, I'm going to fail push your Stoneforge Mystic. And like, thanks for the tempo advantage. I appreciate it.
Right. Like, yeah, for sure. And then like the sideboard is like 4 Aether Gust, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, which I think is kind of the new standard, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Ashiok, 1 Dovin's Veto, 2 Timely Reinforcements. Like it's got a nice juke that it can take, right? 2 Supreme Verdicts in the main, so you can do this plan of like, I'm going to sideboard out the Stoneforge package and go hard control, or I'm going to sideboard out Uros and bring in Aether Gusts and try to tempo you out that way. But I worry about your sword carriers. You know? Like I worry about your who's getting in the red zone. You know, like I just don't think it works with this deck. But he went 6-1 in the challenge, so he knows something we don't. I'm just here giving my opinions. You know, like for sure.
I feel like that's a typical description of a Magic player is like you can do really well with something, but they'll always tell you how you're doing it wrong. Like,
That's true. That's true. And I definitely don't want to like take anything away from this guy. He definitely kicked butt, but like it just as someone who I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of most archetypes. I think that this just
You want to gush your shoulder off real quick when you say that?
I have the least amount
Have a
of
slice of
experience
humble
with this band control deck though too. You know, like I try to reason through things logically, and sometimes it just doesn't. Logic doesn't line up with how things actually play out.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, it's in order to go 6-1. There's a lot of luck involved with that too, though.
You could run hot.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you can't win a challenge like that without some luck on your side. It's just the nature of the game. You know?
Absolutely.
Like, I'd be foolish to say that all my plays came from good skill. I've been like, well, you're dead. Team or battle rage, you know, whatever it is.
It also could be like maybe this guy has an unorthodox way of playing, and like the way he looks at the deck, he could be seeing lines that we are not even touching.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that I have no experience casting Stoneforge Mystic in Modern.
Same.
Like I've played it in Legacy, and it's a very different card. It carries a weapon in Legacy because removal is not really a thing. You know, like.
I have plenty of experience of it being cast against me, and I've never been like, "Oh shit, Batterskull."
Yeah.
Just been like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's a card.
I can see you're trying to.
Have you ever had an opponent with a Tarmogoyf in play, cast a Stoneforge Mystic, and go get an Ember Cleave, and then put it into play?
What the fuck? You've done this in Modern?
I have a friend of mine. He's a Rochester guy. His name's Phil Gunn. Everyone refers to him as the Gun Show. I don't know if you guys have been to a tournament that you might know. I've never heard of him. He's been around for a long time. He is referred to as the Gun Show. He plays Gun Show Zoo. That's his archetype. It's a Naya Zoo deck that only Phil Gunn can pilot. It's not anything. If you handed me the deck, I would. It's one of those things you look at it, you're like, this doesn't make sense. Wild Nakatl's in the list. He'll kick your ass with a Wild Nakatl. Wild Nakatl carries a sword very well, by the way.
Yeah.
But he plays. I watched him do it. He played an Embercleave, or he played a Stoneforge Mystic, and his opponent's like going to get Batterskull. He's like, oh no, I'm going to get Embercleave, and then Stoneforge Mystic can put it into play. And then when it enters the battlefield, it
equips.
You don't have to attack to get the equip thing. You do in Standard, but in Modern, you don't have to. So there's lots of unexplored territory with that card, Embercleave.
Mason's going to be out playing a league later today.
You want a list?
Yes.
I'll get you a list. I'll get you Gun Show Zoo. You can try it out.
So sweet.
Yeah, he's a big avid Knight of the Reliquary guy too. So
I love that card.
these lists are like they look like Naya lists, but they've got some bolts and paths and helixes as well, and then they've got the Nakatls and Stoneforges and Goyfs and Knight of the Reliquaries, and it's a cool
It's
deck.
a 100-card deck.
Yeah.
It feels like it. Yeah.
It has everything.
Phil Gunn's the man though. He's been playing Gun Show Zoo for a long time. So, but yeah, that's what I saw. Any other note? I'm looking at the list here quick. Any other notable things that we could hit
The fact
on?
that Dredge is back really bothers me, but I hate that deck with a passion.
Some Rakdos Luris aggro. Is that just like, is that Red Black Shadow or what is that?
Red Black Luris Aggro might just be the Red Black Prowess deck again.
Yeah, that's what it looks like actually. Okay, with Abbots and stuff.
Yep.
There's a couple of Humans lists squeaked their way
Humans
into
is
top
popping up.
26.
Humans is popping up right now, which is good. I think that Humans keeps a lot of decks in check, but God, as a Grixis Shadow player, I hate that deck because it's just so bad.
Yep.
Where's Goblins?
Notably, I was
Nowhere.
about to tell you, Goblins. The highest list on the highest place on this list was 19th. One guy made top 32 on Goblins, and it was 19th.
Yeah.
Damn, what? Why?
I don't know. I don't know if people like
Because that deck seems...
Does Drowsytron have a good matchup against it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I wouldn't be inclined to think so because
I think
Snoop comes down. How do you answer a resolve Snoop?
Yeah.
Spatial Contortion out of the board.
Multiple smasher draws?
Yeah. But Jarman also kept in Chalices, which is wrong.
Yeah,
Like-
and he kept on challenging on one. Yeah, he didn't know how to play against it.
Yeah.
He admitted to that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Ooh, is this LSV?
Is it LSV underscore?
No, it's just LSV all lowercase. Is this LSV? He was in this list.
Maybe. I thought his is LSV with an underscore.
It might be because this list looks. I don't know if LSV would be playing this in 2020. 3 Snapcaster, 3 Wall of Omens, 3 Spellcaller, 1 Vendilion Click, 3 Restoration Angel.
Absolutely, he fucking would be. He played. That man brought a Isn't Phoenix list to a pro tour and didn't change a single card.
This looks like no intent to be like shots fired here, but this looks like a sideboard of. Or this looks like a Gabriel Nassif deck list. these one-ofs, 1 Oust in the main, 1 Mana Leak, 2 Remand, 1 Factor Fiction sideboard. You got 1 Condemn, 1 Generous Gift, which is the...
he knows it well. It's Beast Within.
Beast Within, White Beast Within, 1
Yeah.
Cataclysmic Gearhulk. Must be for the Goblins matchup. It has to be, right?
Yeah.
Funky.
And then 2 Lyra Dawnbringer, which, funnily enough, I think it's Baneslayer, because Baneslayer got protection from your Glory Bringers.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Torbrand, you rip up a fucking Lyra, no problem.
Any other decks we got to talk about? What do we...
We're actually kind of in like wrap-up time right now. We're at 1 hour and 28 minutes.
I could talk Modern with you guys all day, man.
I know.
I haven't seen these guys in a while either, so this is nice.
This is real nice.
This
This is a nice
Modern.
surprise.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
It's not too far of a drive. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 hours went by pretty quick, and we got an apartment in Mount Horeb, which is near New Glarus, still kind of southwest.
We have a lot of sickos that listen to this podcast, and you might not want to give away your address.
I'm not going to southwest side of Madison is where we're going to be home base now. I just got to find a permanent job in this area kind of thing. It's the job I'm working at now is letting me work from home, but it's still based in Rochester. So things are, could get dicey if they call me back to the office or anything like that. So got to find something, but I'm looking forward to paper tournaments whenever they come back.
Same. I'm jonesing to play some more.
We're gonna jam some paper today, and it's probably gonna be till like 10 o'clock at night, and then I'll drive home late because I have not played Paper Magic in months.
I just want to say that Modern's pretty exciting though right now.
I would definitely
sounds like
recommend
it.
playing Modern.
Yeah.
If anything can win, it's Modern. It's always has been. One of the things I wanted to touch on real quick, if we have time.
Yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on the general nature that Modern's going into right now? Because before you answer, let me preface this by saying I fit the category of what I feel like other Modern players were for a long time, and that is enjoying Modern for being the wacky place that it is. And you can do things like 2 ships passing in the night, and you can do things like lantern control and affinity, and like this huge push towards fair, slow gameplay. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Do you want to start on this? Because
Sure, I can. So, Modern is. I have my like waxing and waning with Modern, but like lately, for probably like the last year, it's probably been the most fun that I've had playing Magic in a long time. Pioneer is very fun. Like when Pioneer first started, Pioneer was a lot of fun. But Modern has always kind of fit that like mold of how I like to play the game. I get upset with it at times, but I just really want Splinter Twin to be unbanned. But you and I have had that conversation. I know that's not happening. But I ultimately know that like I really enjoy being able to kind of do whatever you want. And anything is viable. And like we talked about very, very early on in this podcast, as long as you know the archetype that you're playing, you get percentage points, and you're able to navigate that a little bit better. So I love it. I love that it's forcing you to play a little bit differently. I don't like that there's 8 different Titan decks. I like only having to prepare for 1 Titan deck, but over and above all, I do love the format. I do like getting to play what I want to play.
For playing Modern for 5 years now, one of the things that I will say is this is like the time in Modern's history that has felt the most punishing to brewers and wacky people who play the game, because things got really powerful.
Yep.
Control got really good. It used to be that you couldn't really play Control.
Yeah, it was really bad.
You had to draw really well, and you had to and the problem was there's everything. You didn't have enough answers, and the answers were a little narrow. Lightning Bolt was good, and Path to Exile was fine, but what if they weren't playing creatures? Then you have to wait till sideboard when you get Stony Silence, and then you only have 15 sideboard card slots, and those slots got taxed, and I felt like the thing that Modern was doing right was being a turn 3 format that was all about innovation and speed. And if you were doing something innately powerful that could have a nut draw, it didn't matter what it was good. And now it just feels like it's a little bit different than that. And I haven't quite been able to swallow that fully because I haven't really been playing much outside of my comfort zone, really. I've been playing Death Shadow and Blue White and things like that. So and Dredge, but
I've been pushing myself out of my comfort zone in this time just because of how open everything is. I have been like, I'm not going to play an Uro deck. I'm not going to play an Uro deck. And I get to a point where I own 4 Uros, so fuck it, I'll play an Uro deck.
I have no experience with that card either. That card's,
Oh,
Dude.
I bet it is.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
I bet it is, but
how about you, Mason?
Man, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about Modern. First, my overall thought of Modern ever since the get-go, it seemed kind of weird as a competitive format because it is so open and you can't really prepare for all of the decks because there's too many, and people will go to their pet decks, people that you don't know. So you can just run into some wacky shit. I think my first round, the first PPTQ was against Blue-Black Mill.
Okay.
I was like, nobody told me that this deck was even a thing.
Yeah.
I got Darkness. I lost. I was in that cocky mood where I'm like, there's nothing I can lose to right now, right? And I swing for lethal. He's like, Darkness? Like, that's not even a magic deck.
Are we just naming cards here?
Anyway, just like this weird point of that, and back to where you said how it's wide open, so it's really fun. But also combating that with what you said, the power creep of things.
Right. It got big fast.
It does seem like there's just, you can try to brew, but it gets to a point where you're like, well, this is just like the best card for this spot.
Right.
And it's become more and more obvious when they print more and more powerful cards.
Well, it felt so resilient for so long because of these decks that could kill you on turn 3. Like, things would just end the game so quickly and it didn't matter. And like you could Jace the Mind Sculptor on Bandit, I'm still going to kill you on turn 3 before it comes down. But now it just doesn't happen as much anymore. It just seems,
Yeah. Modern is probably also the most polarizing format.
Right.
Where like when the format is unhealthy, it's very unhealthy. Where it's like Hogak at like 40% of the meta, or like the 2 snow decks taking up like 38 to 52% of the meta.
Hogak and Eldrazi.
Yeah, and Eldrazi as well. But then, like, once they ban it, like, the format opens right back up, and, like, I can't think of another format that does... So, like, even Legacy, like, when there's a broken card in it, like Astrolabe or Oko, there's still multiple flavors of it. Whereas it's, like, even, like, the snow decks now, like, you don't... Right. You had 2 snow decks, or there was just Hogak. So, like, it goes from, like, this super homogenized format to just wide open, and it usually stays wide open longer than it stays homogenized, which is good. But I do really appreciate that, like, it feels good to play the format, but yeah, you're absolutely right, where you don't get to do the things that you want to do anymore. Like, I could never take Black-Red Elementals or make a deck like that on the fly and do well with it. Like, that would never fucking
Well, the power creep thing Mason brought up is interesting because the power creep is rising for these, like, decks so they can start answering things, right? Force Negation's a prime example, things like that. So,
but they don't print those cards in...
Correct.
Yeah,
but just in general, cards like Assassin's Trophy was a huge get for a lot of decks because it's an answer to Tron lands, apart from being a functional Abrupt Decay in a lot of situations. Things like that kind of push the power creep up. And you brought up Legacy, which is interesting, but like the innovative side of Legacy is very difficult to make because you have essentially like pillars to answer. Legacy got all jumbled up with Oko and Astrolabe and things like that. So just travel back in time with me for a second. Just before that, you had pillars of Legacy. You had Delver that could tax you both mana and on efficient spells with a decent clock. You had Combo. That was really difficult to beat. If you were trying to gang up on the Delver decks and beat the Delver decks, you lost to Combo. You had Depths as like the middle ground between the two. You had very combo-oriented Depths that could kill you on turn 2, and you had very grind out with Life from the Loam Depths decks. So those, you couldn't really ever beat one without losing to others. Like you could hard beat the Delver decks, but then you lost to the combo decks. You could do this wacky thing with all these Cloud Post lands. You got beat by Wasteland. You could, like, the cards, the power creep isn't evenly distributed in Modern right now, which I don't think is bad. I think Modern's in a good place overall. Like, that deck dump overall is like top 8, like 6 different decks. I'm okay with that. You know, like, that's pretty cool. But
I mean, like, we have pillars, but the pillars in Modern change faster than they do in Legacy.
Right, and they changed in a way now where Modern doesn't feel as much of a turn 3 format anymore.
Right.
Because the answers to Tron are there now. The answers to aggro are there now. Cards,
The earliest turn, like, the 2 turn 3 decks I can think of, since they banned Storming to the Ground, but that's besides the point, are Goblins and Ad Nauseam. Like, those are the 2 turn 3 decks, but, like, it's harder to interact with Ad Nauseam, don't get me wrong, but Goblins is actually very easy to interact with. Like, it's very easy to break up the combo.
The thing that is so powerful about Goblins
is that its plan B is quite good.
The last thing I want to say about Modern right now, since I know we're getting pressed for time, is with Goblins is, like, if you are like playing a Lightning Bolt deck that stops the Snoop combo, they're going to bury you with Ringleaders.
Yes,
that's just what happens. Like, you just can't get it. Like,
that's how combo decks should be. They shouldn't, like, combo decks should be good combo decks because they have a good plan B.
Right.
Granted, as long as it doesn't get oppressive, because Hogak's first iteration was the Alter Dementia Bridge from Below nonsense. That had an amazing game plan A of, I'm going to kill you on turn 2, but its plan B, which is what the deck evolved into, was actually better than the plan A.
Right. And still, yeah, I agree. I think that like the Goblins deck being like any I like to refer to it a bit. It feels a bit to me when I watch it a bit like Collected Company, where you don't have the company, you have Goblin Ringleader as your card advantage that way, but you have this sneaky combo of the old like Court of Calling, even as far back as Eldrazi Winter, the deck that rose up to contend with that was Abzan Company, just like this value-oriented creature deck that had three essential plans to it. It was either going to kill you with a combo, it was going to kill you by going wider than you, or it was going to bury you, and you didn't have enough room to spot removal to keep up with it. So Goblins checks all those boxes quite well. Goblins
I love it. That's
relatively resilient. You've got a nice tutor package with Matron. You've got Ringleader to bury people. You've got Snoop to combo people. Snoop's messed up. Snoop is a messed up card.
Snoop's real fucked up. And just like all the things, all those plans line up really well for the curve. Like it goes right in line of like turn one Thoughtseize to make sure you
or Vile, yep.
But like Thoughtseize great to like get rid of some removal for your turn two Snoop if you want to do that. If you want to go hard for that, and if that doesn't work, then it's like, okay, I tried Harbinger turn 3. Whatever, they kill the Snoop. Turn 4 is Ringleader. And then turn 5, if you get Kiki hardcast down with Ringleaders out, you're not coming back from that.
Yeah, right. If you're lightning bolting your opponent, you're not. Yeah.
And I've had to do that multiple times where I just hardcast Kiki Jiki and everybody's like, well, he's part of your combo. It's like, yeah, but have you copied Ringleader every turn for the entirety of the game? Like, you're not winning that game.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Modern's great though. Play some Modern, guys.
Yeah,
everyone listening, play some Modern.
I'm definitely gonna play. I want to play some Stoneforge Mystic.
I will get you Gunshow Zoo. I will get you Gunshow Zoo.
All right. And the other thing we do when we sign off is we
hit him with a Wolfpack Howl.
We hit him with a howl. Do you want to start the howl?
How does it work? I don't know if I caught the last one. The first one I heard, the first podcast I listened to, I thought you were the only one that howled, Mason.
No,
well, I think you
edited it, but
that was the first one.
Yeah, okay, because I don't think I caught the very end of the second one.
Okay, yeah. So
and this is podcast number 3, right?
5.
That's 5. Yeah,
I have more to listen to. I'm so sorry, guys.
No, it's all good.
All right.
They get better.
I bet they do. I heard. Maybe I listened to them in a weird order. Maybe I missed like 2 or 4. Or maybe I don't know.
I think 2's our best. I think 2 is the best one.
Okay,
personally.
I'll have to go back and re-listen.
This is our best one.
Oh yeah,
ever listening?
I mean, this is very good. I actually this was a great podcast.
But yeah, I mean, I had a good time. It's been fun. If you guys want to talk Modern again, let me know. I'll come up for another one.
We're going to be doing that for the rest of today. We're going to be doing some grilling.
I'm excited for that too. Yeah.
So you just go, ooh, but you get louder.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I'm the only one doing it? Or
no,
you got to start and then we follow.
Yeah.
All right. So when do you join in? How does this like?
You just do it. You figure it out.
You guys aren't going to join me. I already know this.
No.
But I'll sign us off with a howl.
All right.
Just anytime?
Anytime. Fire it up.
Ooh.